Hello and welcome back to the Death Row and Executions channel. My name is Paco Rivera. First, some death row news. This month, the Florida Supreme Court upheld the death sentence for Marlin Larice Joseph, who was convicted in the 2017 murder of a woman and her 11-year-old daughter in West Palm Beach, Florida. Marlin Joseph will remain on death row after justices deny an appeal of his murder convictions. The motive for the murder? Marlin Joseph killed the 11-year-old girl, Kyra, and her mother after he learned of an argument that the young girl, Kyra, had with his 8-year-old daughter. Another name has been added to the list of scheduled executions this year. The Missouri Supreme Court on January 31st set a date of May 3rd for the execution of Carman Deck, who was convicted of killing an elderly DeSoto, Missouri couple in the year 1996 during a robbery inside their home. Deck pulled a pistol from his waistband and ordered them to lie face down on their bed. He then shot them both in the head. In the state of Indiana, prosecutors will seek the death penalty for 27-year-old Gary C. Ferrell II. Ferrell shot and killed a 21-year-old woman and her 62-year-old grandmother after exiting their car in the parking lot of the manufacturing plant where they both worked in Frankfort, Indiana. Ferrell tried to force the young woman into his car, and when the grandmother intervened, he shot her. When the young woman struggled and tried to escape from being kidnapped, he shot her as well, and then ran over her body while fleeing in his car. Ferrell was chased by police and caught a short time later after crashing his vehicle. Gary Ferrell was also an employee at the same manufacturing plant where the two women worked, but on a different shift. Also in the news this month, the state of Idaho will seek the death penalty against 56-year-old Richard B. Ross. Ross is charged with the murders of his former brother-in-law, Michael Devin, who was 57 years old, and his former mother-in-law, Devin's and his ex-wife's mother, 76-year-old Edwina Devin, known as Eddie. Richard Ross and his wife had divorced about 2 years earlier after a 20-year marriage. The last execution in the state of Idaho occurred in the year 2012, 10 years ago, and there have only been 3 executions in that state since 1976. And what is yet another violent attack of much older or elderly persons. In the city of Odessa, in the state of Texas, late on the night of April 21st, 1994, almost 28 years ago, Michael Gonzales, known in his circles as Spider, broke into the home of a couple that lived right next door to him. A recent image from Google Maps of that home is seen here. Michael Gonzalez lived with his wife and a child in his mother's house next door to the elderly couple. That house appears to no longer exist, as shown here, where that house was once located. The two families had been neighbors for years. According to the son of the elderly couple, Rick Aguirre, his father Manuel had been stabbed by Michael Gonzalez while he was seated on a reclining chair in the living room. and Merced Aguirre was in the kitchen. Some reports say the victims were asleep when Gonzalez broke into the home, but that may be incorrect. It appears from the autopsy report that Merced Aguirre had struggled ferociously for her life while trying to fight off her attacker. She had defensive wounds all throughout her body, including on her legs and the bottoms of her feet. The medical examiner that testified at trial said that the stab wounds were, quote, too numerous to count. Her husband, Manuel Aguirre, had been stabbed 11 times. After the killings, Michael Gonzalez removed various items from the home, including stereo equipment, a VCR, a microwave oven, a camera, a .22 caliber revolver, and a purse. He later sold most of those items. Aside from the robbery, they may have also been a revenge factor that motivated Gonzalez to kill Mr. and Mrs. Aguirre. The night before the killings, Manuel Aguirre had called police to complain about all the noise coming from outside the home of Michael Gonzalez and all the traffic coming and going from that residence, and police had responded to put an end to it. Michael Gonzalez had just completed time in jail for burglary in 1993 and for auto theft in the state of Oklahoma in 1992 and was out on parole. Police quickly became suspicious of Gonzalez. Just 16 hours after the murders, Gonzalez was brought in for questioning, but a luminol test of his body showed no trace of blood from the victims and they had to release him. Police later found bloodstains in an alleyway between the two homes, and the neighborhood informant told police that Michael Gonzalez was seen cleaning sections of that alley. It was not long after that that his mother gave police permission to search her home. Inside the home, police found the stereo belonging to the murdered elderly couple. They also found what was later proven to be the murder weapon, the knife. Gonzalez was arrested on May 7th, 1994, 16 days after the murders. After Michael Gonzalez was arrested and that made the news, items that were bought from him were returned to police from people that came forward saying Michael Gonzalez had sold them those things.
We know he was one who killed him. After my parents' death, his mother let the police search her house. But after he was arrested and people came forward with stuff he had stolen from the house, and so they came forward that they had bought it from him.
Jury selection for the trial began over a year later, on November 27th, 1995. During trial, Michael Spider Gonzalez had often displayed extremely disruptive behavior in the courtroom with frequent outbursts. At one point, he had even taken the stand, and when questioned by his own lawyer, Gonzalez cursed at him and told him he didn't want his effing assistance. During the sentencing phase in court, Gonzalez's wife had testified that he did kill Mr. and Mrs. Aguirre, and Michael Gonzalez began yelling at her, "The same thing is going to happen to you. I'm going to have someone kill you," using quite a bit of profanity when he had said it, which, once again, I won't repeat here. Gonzalez was convicted on December 7th, 1995, and on the following day, December 8th, he was sentenced to death. Regardless of all the appeals in this case and resentencing hearings over the years, Michael Gonzalez has been on death row ever since. He is scheduled to be executed in Texas on March 8th. It appears from his size that he has been well fed in prison. The Aguirre family plans to attend the execution and watch the killer of their loved ones, Mr. and Mrs. Aguirre, die by lethal injection.
Our parents and our family will have some peace and the justice will be served.
Remember to subscribe to this channel so that you are alerted the next time one comes out. I'm Paco Rivera. Bye for now.